We travel to learn from other counties, and we ask always about best practices. And one thing I've found is when I ask about criminal justice, people are looking at us because the bail system is really at the heart of all the dominoes that have led us to be the death penalty capital of America, the incarceration capital with our jail. And so we're really trying to get at the heart of it. And what we concluded is that reforming our bail system, of course, that is a lawsuit that we've been facing for years, that our bail system was so discriminatory to be deemed unconstitutional by a Republican-appointed judge and then upheld by the Court of Appeals. The previous Commissioner's Court was fighting that lawsuit for years at the cost of millions of dollars to taxpayers. As soon as we got in there, we said, we're not fighting this anymore, let's settle this. And that's where we implemented the rule with our judges that's currently in place, and Judge Darrell Jordan and Franklin Bynum and the 17 African-American women that you all voted into office, all of that. That's the reason we've been able to do this. And so today, you're not in jail because you can't pay if you've been accused of a misdemeanor crime. Now, what we have to do and what we found is it's not just about saying people have to, within 2 days or a day, see a judge, and you can't just use wealth as a reason. Because of course, if you're accused of the same crime, one person is wealthy, one person is poor, the poor person stays. It's not something that's a danger to the community. I mean, of course, the judge evaluates if it's somebody accused of a crime that's, dangerous for them to be out. There are reasons to think that they'd be a threat to the community. Well, they have that discretion. But the idea is it's not automatic. Everybody stays because then they lose their job. Who's going to take care of their kids? And they get put into this spiral. So that's why the judge said it was so unconstitutionally discriminatory. And so also what we're working on is how do we build people to succeed? Okay, once they go home, why don't they come back? Do we need to send text message reminders? How do we need to support them? So that's the infrastructure that we're building right now with our settlement that we're working on. The system is deeply broken, and we understand that there are different levers to make sure that our community is safe, but that also it's unsafe because we put people into the cycle of recidivism, because we incarcerate people with mental illnesses. We know that that's not the smart way to do it. We've got all the best practices in the world have been studied twice and 3 times. And so what we're doing is undergoing an overall look at our criminal justice system. And that's what we'll do before we pull levers. Until today, or until we came in, our public defender's office saw only 8% of defendants. And we know anybody in this room wouldn't put, if their loved one was accused of a crime, you wouldn't give them a judge you wouldn't give them an attorney, a defense attorney that was chosen by the judge. That's why it's important to have a robust public defender's office. So the budget, we increase the public defender's budget by 91%. So we're inching closer to what other communities around the country have so that there's fair defense. On juvenile justice, you walk in there and it's all black and brown kids in those detention centers. And we know that it's not that black and brown kids are more misbehaved than white kids. And so the question is, why do we have 7 times as many black kids, 5 times as many Hispanic kids as white kids? And there, again, they were going to open another juvenile detention center that was slated. We stopped that. Instead, we're turning an existing center into a day facility. We can't do that to our children. We have to set them up for success. Day facilities where they can learn and we can manage if they have, some mental health issues, identify them. If they're just being children, let them teach them how to manage their anger, but put them in a path to success. So that's another one where we're doing an outside review. What do we need to do on probation, on pretrial, on arrests, on schools? It's not going to take tinkering at the margins and pulling just one lever. So we're working on that very, very hard. So really that's the focus, is getting to the roots of our criminal justice system. And eventually, we'll move on to other questions like early education, mental health, but we're really starting from the top. What's the thing that's burning right now? And we know what work we need to do and we're doing it.
And I certainly want to thank the county and for what the direction that they are taking. Who we select, who we put on the bench matters, okay? For anybody who tell you it doesn't matter, let me tell you, it matters. Because if you don't have an appreciation of the walk that people have to take, what they're having to go through, you want a system that's just, but just for everybody. And so who's on the bench matters. And so I certainly want to acknowledge those 19 African-American women who stepped up and now on the bench. We lost, one died, but I want to acknowledge that. And so that's why Carla Braley is here. She's the vice chair of the state Democratic Party. Carla, raise your hand up again. Carla Braley. I wanted to acknowledge you before you left because people that are in key positions all the way down from the national, state, local level, they matter. And elections matter. So you can't really talk about the judicial system or the political system or what's happening at the county, what's happening at the city, on the national level without participating in the process. And so Carla Braley, thank you so very much for being a champion for all of us within the Democratic Party. One of the issues that we're having to deal with right now is the juvenile curfew. That's what it has been in place since 1995. And when it was first put in place, I think shortly after, there was like 14,000 citations that were issued. Now, last year, I think it was 137. And every 3 years, we have to decide whether or not we're going to continue it or not. And so we're looking at it right now before City Council. If a kid is out there, I think I want to say between midnight and 6, then they can be stopped. They can also receive a fine of like $500 to them for their parent, what have you. And so we're looking at making modifications. And I will tell you that I am inclined to either significantly reduce that fine or get rid of it. We're looking at making modifications. And if somebody, a kid, let's say if you're 12, 13, 15 years old is out there, instead of giving you that, making it a criminal sort of deal, referring to what we call teen court, where you go to teen court and the prosecutors are teens themselves, okay? And we use it more of a teachable moment. And because the key is we don't want our kids on the streets at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay? You don't want, so we got to have a tool to say no, but then but you don't want to criminalize them too at the same time. So we're trying to work through that, and certainly your input and on that will be very, very important. It's been in place since 1995. It's up for renewal right now, and we're trying to work through that. But the criminal justice system has been a pipeline. We're having to address that because you literally can change the trajectory of somebody's life. And so it has to be a just system that works for everyone. And on this issue, I do want to give a special credit and acknowledgement to the county for the leadership that they have taken and the substantive changes that they have.